Hello, welcome back to my channel. In case you can tell, I'm actually in the kitchen. I'm waiting for my coffee to be ready so that we can talk over coffee. So in today's video, I'm gonna rate some of the Spanish shows that I've watched over the years, but this video would be part 1, in which I'll only talk about Netflix shows which were also relatively more recent. And another thing to bear in mind is that I'm no film major, nor am I any sort of professional. I'm only sharing my personal opinions. I just thought it would be fun to share them. And if you want to have a discussion, please leave a comment down below. I would love to talk about these shows. Anyway, okay, so my coffee is ready. I will see you guys in a bit. Well, hello there. Now that we've got everything ready, let's dive right into the first show. So the first show is called El Inocente, or in English, The Innocent. This is a really new show which just came out like a month ago, but ever since it came out, it's been sitting tight at the top 3 most watched shows in Spain, and I think it's getting popular in other countries as well. Anyway, so this is a mini-series with only 8 episodes. It's a thriller adapted from a novel written by Harlan Coben, who is a New York Times best-selling author, and directed by the same director as the movie Contratiempo, The Invisible Guest, which was also a hit. So if you haven't watched that movie, I highly recommend that movie as well. But if you've watched that movie and you like the movie, you are gonna love this show, guaranteed. So I finished it in like 3 days because I had work to do. Otherwise, I would have finished it in like 2 days top, I think, because it really gets you hooked from the very beginning to the very last minute. Mark my words, literally to the very last minute. So our protagonist is called Matt, who just got released from the prison and he wanted to start his life over. Everything seemed to be working out just fine until one day his wife told him that she was gonna go on a short business trip to Berlin. But ever since she left, Matt started to get weird photos and videos of his wife taken by another guy. Oh, by the way, you're gonna watch all these within the first 20 to 30 minutes of the first episode, so there's really no spoiler here. So this is the first storyline, and the second storyline starts from the second episode, in which an inspector was trying to solve a mysterious suicide in the city, which makes it seem like a whole new series because Matt's story was just pushed aside completely in the second episode until the very last second of the second episode, and that was when these two storylines intertwine, which makes it gutsy impulsively to not continue watching the third episode. I mean, this is how binge watching happens. Anyway, so this is a really nicely written and directed show. The story is like an onion. There are so many layers and perspectives and twists and turns and just filled with suspense. It really kept me at the edge of seat throughout the whole show. So I'm gonna give this show 9 out of 10 points. And the second show is called ¿Quién mató a Sarah? Who Killed Sarah? This is also a relatively new show on Netflix. It's a Mexican thriller that just came out in March. There were 10 episodes in the first season, and the second season just came out like a few days ago, this week. So it basically tells the story of how this guy Alex was framed for having killed his own sister, and he spent 18 years in the prison. And the minute that he got released, he started his own investigation on who really killed his sister Sarah. So the reason why I watched this show in the first place is because, first of all, it's a thriller, and generally I like suspense stories, and secondly, I actually encountered recommendation of this show here and there on social media several times, so I decided to just give it a try. But the truth is, if I were to rate this show, I would probably only give it a 6.5 out of 10 points, if that's not too low, because overall I feel like the plots are kind of weak and the story itself isn't that solid. And another thing that I don't really like about the show is that, personally, I feel that there are a lot of repetitive scenes, especially in the flashbacks. So I think it's a little bit redundant. It would probably look better if they have compressed 10 episodes into, let's say, 6. So my opinion is that if you've got other shows to watch, this one can wait, but I'm not completely ruling out the possibility of watching the second season. I'm a curious being, so we'll see. And the third show that I'm gonna rate here is called El Desorden que Dejas, The Mess You Leave Behind. So this is also a new show this year on Netflix. I've also read recommendation about it here and there on social media, so I decided to watch it. It's also a crime show, a thriller, 8 episodes, single season. Basically, the story is about how a substitute literature teacher in a public high school in Galicia discovered the truth of how the teacher before her mysteriously died, and some other secrets in this town that surface along with the truth of her death. I would rate it somewhere between 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Probably somewhere around 7. So let's talk about what I like about the show first. So I think the director did a pretty neat job in blending together the past and the present. So the show just switches between these two timelines seamlessly and effortlessly, that raise the suspense but not confusing, which I think is quite impressive. But what I don't like about the show is, first of all, I don't like how they have color graded this whole show, because it's got this green, bluish kind of hue going on throughout the show, and it's almost always raining or cloudy in the show. I don't know why. Maybe the weather in Galicia is like this. So the whole show is just way too gloomy for me to watch, and the story itself is also pretty gloomy, and in my opinion I think it might be disturbing even for some people. So anyway, even if the suspense is not bad, generally speaking, I've actually googled what happened when I still had 2 episodes to go, because I just couldn't wait to find out. But if you've got other options, I would say this one can also wait. Show number 4, Las Chicas del Café, K-pop girls. So this is one of my favorite Spanish shows this year, and I absolutely love the cast. I think I would give it like 8.5 out of 10, 8.5 to 9 out of 10 points. So there were altogether 5 seasons, and personally I think the first 3 seasons were just like solid 3 seasons. The first one is okay, not a super big fan of the 5th season, which is the last season, because I feel like the story is a little bit forced, it's a little bit too long. So unlike the first 3 shows that I just talked about, this one is not a thriller, but there's drama, there's romance, there's suspense, there's revenge. There were a lot of twists and turns, so the show is very intriguing and can be addicting too. The story was set in Madrid in the 1920s, during which time women were only seen as a dormant of men. They were wives, they were housewives, mothers, daughters, who didn't enjoy much liberty, both physically and mentally. So the story revolves around the life of these 4, or you can say 5 cable girls who worked at this telecommunications company, in charge of, connecting the lines. I love the ties and bonds, the friendship that these girls have formed between them, and it's amazing how they rise above the situation again and again with their wisdom, with their courage and teamwork. And another great thing about the show is that it presents us what life was like in that period of time in Spain, especially for women, and the kind of challenge that women faced back then. And through the story, we get to see how these girls who live in such a period of time have strived for their independence and their liberty, how they fought for justice, how they wanted to have their voice heard. It's just very inspiring. It's also very satisfying to watch how each female characters have grown throughout these 5 seasons. You're gonna see how these girls have shaped themselves into strong-willed, confident, and determined women. Apart from the story itself, I think all the lines in this show are so beautifully written and so polished. There's no crazy tensions in this show like that you would encounter in a thriller. So you could actually take your time, check the dictionary, take some notes, and savor the language. So I would highly recommend this show. And the 5th show, Chan La Casa de Papel, Money Heist. And before I get started, is anyone here who doesn't know this show? Because I feel that this is probably the most popular Spanish series worldwide. Is it? Am I wrong? So anyway, I finished season 3 and season 4 in February, I think, which are excellent, but not as extraordinary and sensational as the first 2 seasons, because oh my god, like the first 2 seasons, I think they are just mind-blowing. So I think growing up, we've watched all kinds of heist movie in which they hatched a plan, put together a team, and then they pull up the job. There are so many stories of this kind that I feel like new stories or new shows barely surprise us. as much as La Casa de Papel, because I just feel like from the storyline to the characters, everything about this show is so one of a kind and so refreshing that watching it feels like traveling to another galaxy. And on the other hand, I think this show is so much more than just a crime show, because we get to see the human side of all these characters throughout the show, and it almost has all the audience standing firmly behind their backs. It's so heroic, and I also love how they have created well-rounded characters, so it shows us both the merit and the flaws of these characters from both sides, the police and the gang members, which gives it a very realistic touch, and I feel like the story is more convincing. And also between the two sides, the police and the gang, there was no one side that always had the upper hand. As bulletproof and meticulous as the professor's plan was, surprises did happen, and the team was constantly challenged by all these surprises. So I will give this show 9.5 out of 10 points, and I really look forward to the last season. So yeah, I highly recommend this show. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. Stay tuned, and I will see you guys in the next one. Ciao!